Hello everyone. Today I am back with a new poetry to discuss with you. This is the poetry of Dylan Thomas entitled On the Marriage of a Virgin. Today we are going to see the summary as well as the analysis of this poetry. To begin with the introduction about a poet, Dylan Marles Thomas is his full name and he was born in Wales in the year 1914. This makes him a modern poet. He began writing poetry when he was a teenager, and his first book, 18 Poems, he published this at the age of 20. Dylan Thomas poetry usually have the lyrical intensity focusing on the themes of childhood, nature, nostalgia, and death. Thomas' famous works include Fernhill, Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night, and he also wrote some short stories, radio plays, film scripts, and Under Milkwood is one of his most famous stories. His personal life was not a bed of roses. It was marked by alcoholism, severe financial struggles, and he had relationship issues also. People called him a doomed poet due to all these struggles he faced all his life until his death. In the year 1950 and around 1950s, in order to gain a fame in his literary career, he started touring around the United States. But that actually turned up worsening his health. So he passed away at the age of 39 in New York City on November 9 in the year 1953. He today is now remembered as the most influential Welsh poet of 20th century literature. So this is all we have to know about him. Moving on, so now we are getting into the poems, the poetic lines. Before that, I want all of you to imagine a man and a woman getting married and living and starting to live a life together. So, in this way, they will be encountering a lot of transformation, be it mentally, physically, spiritually, or emotionally. They will meet a lot of transformation. And this transformation, according to Dylan Thomas, is a miracle. So let us see through the lines that how Dylan Thomas calls this transformation as miracle and why he does that. So starting with the first line, waking alone in a multitudes of love when morning's light. So this line, the meaning we have from this line and the interpretation we could have from this line is the married woman now is waking up from a state of innocence and isolation. She was once a spinster, she was once a virgin. She was living a life in isolation with no man behind, beside, or in front of her, no man around her. She was innocent. She was innocent and she was living under isolation. Now, she is waking up from that state and entering into the state of experience, the experience of the physical intimacy with a man. The multitudes of love. This particular phrase suggests that this lady, particularly in her spinsterhood, she had her own imagined romances, her own dream man, fantasy, or it may also signify the past memories of the feelings of love she had. That's it. In short, she wakes up from her own individual consciousness or her own spiritual awakening during the new day, morning light. From the state of innocence, she is now entering into the state of experience and transformation. Her transformation from a virgin to a married woman. with a change spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Everything has changed that morning. And that morning is what is beginning the poetry from. Coming to the second line, surprised in the opening of her night long eyes. She has been asleep all night and she wakes up surprisingly sensing the sudden awakening. Awakening of what? Awakening of the transformation, of her own transformation from a virgin to a married woman, experiencing the physical intimacy, experiencing the spiritual transformation, experiencing the emotional changes within herself, the kinds of feelings that she has with the transformation, with the process. That is the awakening Thomas is talking about. Night long eyes here, this night long eyes phrases symbolize her blindness to the realities of life. She might have had fantasies in her spinsterhood, but that is not the reality she is going to live. Her eyes are now open to the reality. So this signifies her transition from innocence to the awareness of what is what, to the awareness of this is what is a married life. That's why she is surprised. She is surprised of her transformation from innocence to being more aware. Now, let us move on to lines 3 and 4. His golden yesterday asleep upon the iris. So this refers to the happy, romanticized, and the bachelor life of the groom. So those emotions that he had, those feelings that he had, everything is now merged with his wife, the woman whom he is married to now, through the sexual union of their marriage. This suggests the change in the history of the man's life that is about to happen through this union, through this transformation. So the life of both the man as well as the woman is going to transform through this union, through this sexual union. Okay. And this day sun leapt up the sky out of her thighs. So here the sun is rising out of her thighs. Whose thighs? The married woman's thighs. So this is a bold image of a sensual awakening, the consummation of a marriage, or the birth of something new, the birth of a new identity, the creation of life, or to be symbolic here, the sun is the symbol of a force, of a life we could compare it with. Now, Thomas compares that quality of woman to the quality of nature. He compares the female nature to the actual nature that God has created. That's it. Now, coming to line 5 and line 6. Was miraculous virginity old as loaves and fishes? So, loaves and fishes is alluded to the biblical story. So Dylan here calls virginity as something sacred and ancient by connecting it with a biblical miracle. So there is a very large spiritual narrative behind this. It is a miraculous story of the 5,000 feedings. So this particularly shows the idea that virginity in its purest state will always increase the provisions through God. So the miracle of a virgin has been existing and has been prevailing from the olden days since the birth and the life of Jesus Christ. So this one can also be interpreted that this transformation from being an unmarried woman, that is a virgin, to a matured woman, that is sensually matured woman, is something sacred and miraculous. And it is very holy that God will always multiply through her, multiply the provisions through her. That's it. Coming to line 6, though the moment of a miracle is unending lightning. The miracles almost happen in a short span of time, but there is always a long lasting effect, optimistic effects or optimistic consequences. Its impact is longer. So that is how is the life of a virgin to the married woman, and the transformation that happens between it is actually. Moving on to line 7, and the shipyards of Galilee's footprints hide a navy of doves. Navy of doves is a collective noun, like it is a group of doves. So this is also a biblical allusion. Galilee, it evokes Christ. It evokes Christ. And for your another meaning, shipyards of Galilee is a place. Galilee is a place which is prone to war, which is prone to war, according to Google. So the shipyards hiding doves. This suggests that innocence is now concealed under the worldly experiences. The maturity has dominated the innocence. The transformation has dominated the purity. The virginity is now getting covered up, being dominated by the sensual awakening of the woman. She is not innocent anymore. She is aware of all the transformations that has happened inside her. In other ways, footprints suggest the beginning of a journey. The people of this worldly life are now about to evoke the Holy Spirit through the transformation, the transcendence. There are a lot of ways in which you can interpret this poetry. But some of these are my own interpretation. Coming to lines 8 and 9, no longer will the vibrations of the sun desire on. The sun here in this line symbolizes the woman, the bride's premarital spinsterhood, the pre-sensual self, which after her wedding and the awakening and the transformation will not live anymore. Repeat the line again. No longer will the vibrations of the sun desire on. The vibrations of the sun signify her premarital self, which now after this transformation is not going to exist anymore. That's it. Her deep sea pillow where once she married alone. We are now in line 9. Let me repeat the line again. Her deep sea pillow where once she married alone. Her premarital wishes, her premarital dreams that lived inside her, the depth, the mysteries she carried within herself in her isolated relationship with her own self. Okay, this context is referred to in short as the deep sea pillow. Pillow is a symbol of isolation, and pillow is a symbol of secrecy, secrets, we could. And the deep sea is mysterious, dark, unknown. It is unknown. Nobody can explore it. So that is how a woman's heart and the woman's life before her marriage is. So the deep sea pillow here evokes the depth, solitude, and the mystery of the spinster. Hence, now there is a new meaning of desire entering into her life. The symbol of desire, the sun, the fire of being in a spinsterhood of her own premarital self, no longer touches her in the same way. Her premarital emotions are no longer living with her anymore. Moving on to lines 10 and 11. Her heart, all ears and eyes, lips catching the avalanche. She was once open and receptive, very focused, very connected. After the wedding, her eyes, her heart, her lips, everything is open to experience the transition, to experience the transformation and the sensual awakening in its highest potential. She is vulnerable to it quite easily, just like an avalanche. Of the golden ghost who ringed with his streams her mercury bone. The golden ghost is a very important phrase. The golden ghost is like the husband, it's likely the husband. The ring is a symbol of marriage. We all know that. It is our culture. As the spirit of desire. The golden ghost is the spirit of desire, the ghost of desire. Keep it in your mind. This ghost of desire is transforming that woman physically and emotionally by holding or tying her with the rings of his streams. Streams here could be his sensual power, his masculine sexual power. Rings of stream could mean his masculine power, perhaps physically. So read this line once again for the next analysis. Of the golden ghost who ringed with his streams her mercury bone. So mercury is a weak metal, liquid metal, as we know, suggesting the weak and the vulnerable nature of woman, which is prone to change, transformation, easy to meet transformation. So she is now under the control of his masculinity. Her life has been impacted by the presence of the male, by the presence of the male power, masculine sexuality. That's it. Moving on to line 12. Who under the lids of her windows hoisted his golden luggage? Quite a surreal image. So here, the man with his presence has brought a complete change in the inner world of that woman. So golden luggage here symbolizes the emotional and the sexual baggage the man had been carrying all his life till he got married. This one is precious in his eyes but are quite heavy to carry, which are now transferred from this man to the responsibility of the woman. Hoisted his golden luggage in the sense he is forcefully entering into the woman's inner world, her private world, her self-sufficient world. Once she did not need any man to live with her. She was happy with her own self. She was happy with the isolation she had in her life. But this transformation has transferred a lot of responsibilities from this man to his wife, which was once belonging solely to the groom alone. Now everything that is his is her responsibility. That is one kind of interpretation. And the other kind of interpretation could be the physical intimacy, the process of the physical intimacy. That's it. Lines 13 and 14. For a man sleeps where fire leapt down, and she learns through his arm that other sun, the jealous coursing of the unrivaled blood. So the act of union is described as fire and passion here. The act of the intimacy is described as the fire and passion. From the state of being an innocent virgin to a transformed woman, an awakened woman, or a sensually matured woman, she is learning the human desire. She is learning about the human love. She is learning all these things through the touch of that man. So that other son is intense, jealous, and consuming. That other son here is the masculine power of the groom. That other son refers to the masculine power of the groom. That's it. So we are now entering into a short analysis about this poetry. So Dylan Thomas on the marriage of virgins, it is dense as we have read now. It is a symbolic poem, hugely symbolic, and it explores the transformation from the virginity to a sensual awakening. And this is in a spiritual way, emotionally, as well as a physical transformation. He also talks about the feelings that arise with all this transformation. As a woman in this poetry senses everything. At the end of the poetic lines, we read that the woman learns of all the human desires, all the types of human desires through the touch of that man. So this poem is rich with biblical allusions, alchemical imagery, and sensual metaphors also. It captures the tension between the spiritual reverence and the earthly passion. He talks about transformation through all these ways. So here, Dylan Thomas makes use of the earthly metals and natural forces like gold, mercury, water, light, sun, and so on to let the readers, to let us visualize or imagine the power of the sexuality as a spiritual and a miraculous asset that has that holds the power to transform anything, that holds the power to transform a life. Just like in the last line we saw unrivaled blood, a masculine blood which can never be competed with. One can never compete with a masculine blood. It is unrivaled blood. It wins always. It has power. It holds power. In this way, Dylan Thomas has employed a number of imageries, number of symbols to explain to us, the readers, the whole process of the transformation of a man and a woman in the union of a marriage.